Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The ring didn't make a sound when it hit the floor, just a soft slide across the wood and then silence. It rolled under the table, past people's shoes, under flickering candles and untouched glasses of wine. No one noticed. No one except me. That's the moment I knew it was done. Not when she leaned into him and whispered something that made him smile. Not when her hand brushed his, or when she laughed that too familiar laugh, the one she hadn't used on me in over a year. No. It was when my wedding ring slipped from my palm and disappeared under a stranger's chair that the truth finally knocked the wind out of me. We were at a restaurant in Claremont, the fancy kind where the menus don't have prices and everyone talks in careful tones. Tessa, my wife, was glowing in candlelight, sipping wine and wearing the blue dress I bought her last Christmas. Not for me, though. No, tonight. Her eyes kept drifting to the man beside her, Leo. He wasn't supposed to be here. She said he was just a friend from work. Then an old college friend. Then, somehow, he was invited to our anniversary dinner. You read that right. Our anniversary dinner. I told myself maybe I was being dramatic. That maybe this was some strange surprise I didn't understand yet. I held on to that fantasy as I sat across from the two of them, watching her ignore me like I was a potted plant in the corner of their date. She didn't even toast. She didn't even say, "Happy anniversary." So I took off my ring. Quietly. No theatrics. No speech. I held it under the table and just stared at it. 9 years, wrapped in a circle. 9 years of her soft, "I love yous" turning into cold, "I'm busy's." And then, I dropped it. Not on purpose. My hand just let go. And once it was gone, I didn't reach for it. I didn't crawl on the floor. I didn't ask her why he knew more about her promotion than I did. I didn't ask why she hadn't touched me in weeks. I just stood up. She noticed me then. Her head tilted. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice bored. I looked at her. I looked at him. And I said, "Pick. Right now. Him or me." She blinked, smirked, took a sip of wine, and said, "You really want to do this in front of everyone?" I nodded. She didn't speak again. Neither did I. I turned and walked out, past our untouched cake, past the waiter still holding the wine list, past the hostess who smiled at me on the way in. I don't know what happened after that. I didn't look back. I just walked. The ring's still under that table, I guess. Like everything else I left behind that night. I didn't go home that night. Couldn't. The thought of walking into the house we built together, the one with the wedding photos still on the wall and the scent of her shampoo lingering on the pillows, it made my chest feel like it was collapsing. So I checked into a motel off the highway, the kind with scratchy sheets and a buzzing fridge. I didn't even turn on the lights. I just laid there, in the dark, staring at the ceiling like it owed me answers. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. 15 messages, none from her. 1 from my mother asking how dinner went. 3 from my boss reminding me about Monday's budget meeting. And the rest? Spam. It wasn't until nearly 2 p.m. that her name finally popped up on the screen. But it wasn't a call. Just a text. "Can we talk?" That was it. "No, I'm sorry." "No, where are you?" Just those 3 cold words. I didn't reply. Not out of pride, but because I didn't know how. What was there to say? That she humiliated me? That she invited him to our anniversary dinner and didn't even flinch when I left? That I was still wearing the same shirt from last night, and it smelled like old wine and betrayal? Around sunset, I drove back. Not home, though. Just to the parking lot down the street. I sat in the car, watching the porch light turn on automatically, like the house was pretending nothing had changed. I saw her shadow move past the window once, maybe twice. Then my phone buzzed again. "I left something for you on the kitchen table." Still no apology. I waited until it was fully dark. Then I walked up to the house, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Everything was exactly where I left it, which somehow made it worse. Like time had frozen, waiting for me to press play again. But I couldn't. I was no longer the man who used to walk in whistling, asking if she wanted tea. That man died on a rooftop under candlelight. On the table was a small envelope. My name written in her handwriting, soft curves, like she always wrote birthday cards. I sat down, turned the envelope over in my hands, and opened it. Inside was a note. I'm sorry you felt embarrassed. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just trying to enjoy the night. You've been so distant lately. I thought maybe if you saw me happy, you'd remember what that looks like. I reread it. Twice. Not once did she say she was sorry. She was sorry I felt embarrassed. Sorry I misinterpreted her behavior. And somehow I was the one who had been distant. Me, the guy who bought flowers for no reason, who canceled poker nights just to watch cooking shows with her, who celebrated every tiny milestone she ever hit. Distant? No, I was done. Then I noticed something else under the note. A folded printout of an email. From her account. Unintended, maybe? Sent to Leo. Matson at ****, 2 days before our anniversary. The subject line? It's happening. I'm going to push him. He'll crack. No attachments. No explanations. Just that line. Push me? Crack me? Suddenly, everything made sense. The smug smiles, the hand on his knee, the fake toast. It wasn't random. It wasn't emotion. It was strategy. She wanted me to break. She wanted me to walk away. And I did. I didn't sleep that night either. My body was still, but my mind wouldn't let me close my eyes. Every time I blinked, I saw her face from the rooftop. How calm she was when I gave her that choice. No panic. No pleading. Just that smug expression. Like she'd already rehearsed the outcome. Like she wanted me to leave. And now, with that email in my hand, I knew I wasn't crazy for feeling that way. I wasn't just paranoid or insecure. I had been played. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called in sick to work. No excuse, no fake cough, just told my manager I wouldn't be coming in. He didn't push it. I think he could hear the exhaustion in my voice. Or maybe he just didn't care. Either way, I had one mission that day, to find out what else she had set in motion behind my back. I started with her laptop. I still had the password. She never thought to change it. That was my first surprise. The second? She had logged out of all her email accounts except one. A burner Gmail. I almost missed it. Buried under a folder named Travel Ideas. She wasn't even being careful. Or maybe she didn't think I was capable of snooping. Maybe she still thought of me as the mild-mannered husband who cried during movie trailers and alphabetized the spice rack. Inside the account were dozens of emails between her and Leo. But it wasn't just romantic. It was coordinated, detailed. They had a plan. And I was the central piece. He's weak. He won't fight back. Let him walk. That's what we need. Keep him on the leash until the apartment is finalized. The apartment. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. My marriage wasn't ending from a mistake or a moment of weakness. It had been strategized. They weren't just having an affair. They were erasing me, brick by brick, and laying down new tiles over my existence. One thread caught my attention. The subject line, timeline for the separation. My heart dropped before I even clicked it. Inside was a checklist. Distant behavior. Complete. Public embarrassment setup. Complete. Trigger him to leave. Complete. File for separation with legal backup. Pending. Move money to new account. In progress. There it was. Not just betrayal. Execution. Cold, meticulous execution. I sat there for a long time, reading that list again and again. I had no idea what time it was. I didn't hear the knock at the door until the second time. It was her. Through the peephole, I saw her standing there in a hoodie and jeans, holding 2 paper cups of coffee like this was just another Sunday morning. She knocked again, lighter this time. Then texted me, "I'm outside. Can we please talk?" No drama. No drama. I stood on the other side of that door, watching her shift her weight from foot to foot, checking her phone, sipping her coffee. She had no idea I'd read everything. No idea the man she thought was too soft to push back had finally seen the whole picture. And for the first time since this all began, I wasn't heartbroken. I was livid. But I didn't open the door. I watched her knock one more time, wait a minute, and then leave the coffee on the step. She walked off down the driveway like she had someplace better to be. She probably did. She thought I was gone, emotionally checked out, done. But she was wrong. I had just gotten started. I didn't tell anyone what I had found. Not my friends, not my family. I couldn't bear the shame in their voices or the looks they'd give me. The kind where sympathy mixes with disappointment, like you should have seen it coming. So instead, I pretended. I became a shadow of myself on purpose. A ghost. I went home when I knew she'd be at work, packed a bag quietly, took my laptop, and left. I didn't leave a note. I wanted her to wonder. I wanted her to feel the kind of confusion I'd been drowning in for months. I stayed with a friend from college, Felix, someone I hadn't talked to in years, but who didn't ask many questions. He gave me the spare room and didn't comment when I sat in silence for hours. Just tossed me a beer and said, "Whatever she did, man, she doesn't get to define you." That hit me harder than I expected. Because up to that point, she did define me. Everything I wore, said, ate, believed. It had passed through the filter of, will Tessa be okay with this? I didn't know who I was without her approval. But I was starting to find out. The next day, I went to the bank. I won't get into the details, but let's just say I had just enough time to freeze the joint account before she moved it all. She'd already tried to transfer a chunk, flagged as suspicious because the destination account didn't match our normal spending patterns. She used her maiden name. It was bold, I'll give her that. I asked the bank rep to send me alerts for any further activity, and he gave me a long, uncomfortable look, like he wasn't supposed to say what he said next. "You're not the first husband this week." I left the bank feeling both crushed and vindicated. She was moving money, lining things up for a clean break. Probably thought I'd be too hurt to notice, or too spineless to do anything about it. And maybe 2 weeks ago she would have been right. But not now. That same afternoon, I went to the storage unit we hadn't visited in years, the one we used during our remodel, filled with boxes labeled summer and guest room. I opened it and started loading everything that had my name on it. High school yearbooks, my dad's old records, even the awful velvet chair she always hated but I secretly loved. Took hours. I didn't care. It was the first time in a long time that I felt like I was doing something instead of just reacting. Around 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. A new message from Tessa. "We need to discuss logistics. I'll be home around 8. Please don't be dramatic. Please don't be dramatic." That was rich, coming from the woman who staged an emotional ambush in front of a table full of strangers. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove back to the house one last time, alone, and walked through it like a museum of memories I didn't want anymore. I left the spare key on the kitchen island. And then, I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I opened the junk drawer, pulled out a post-it note, and wrote 3 words. I read everything. I didn't sign it. I didn't leave my number. Just those words, enough to end any illusion she might have still been clinging to. Enough to let her know the game was over, and I wasn't coming back to be her soft landing. As I closed the door behind me, something strange happened. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel powerful. I felt nothing, like I'd stepped out of a story someone else had written for me. But that was about to change. Because the next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. And the man on the other end, he wasn't calling about Tessa. He was calling about Leo. The number was from out of state. I almost let it ring out. I was sitting in Felix's dim kitchen, eating dry toast and pretending it didn't taste like cardboard, when it buzzed across the table. Something in me, maybe that new instinct I hadn't trusted before, made me pick it up. "Hello," I said, cautious. There was a pause. Then a man's voice, calm but serious. "Is this Merrill Sanders?" "Yes," I answered slowly. "I don't mean to alarm you," he said, "but I think we need to talk. It's about Leo Matson." Just hearing the name made my stomach tighten. I pushed the toast away and stood up. "Who is this?" "My name's Aaron. I'm his landlord. Or I was." I stayed silent. "I found your name and number in a folder Leo left behind in his apartment. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but there are things you should know." This was the last thing I expected. Leo had a folder with my name on it? What kind of things? I asked, heart thudding. I'd rather not discuss them over the phone, he said. But let's just say Leo left town fast. Real fast. Owed back rent, broke the lease, and left a whole pile of strange paperwork. Notes. Some about a woman named Tessa. Some with your full name. Even your wedding date. That was it. I told him I'd be there in the morning. I didn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't grief that kept me up. It was adrenaline. The drive took 5 hours. Aaron lived in a town so small I almost missed the exit. His house was modest. Overgrown lawn, a crooked mailbox. He met me on the porch holding a shoebox duct-taped shut. I thought about burning it, he said. But it felt wrong. Inside were pages and pages of scribbled notes, voice memos on a cheap recorder, screenshots of social media posts. All of us. Me and Tessa. Our wedding photos. My LinkedIn. Even old tweets I barely remembered posting. Leo had been digging into my life for months. One note stood out. Written in red ink. Underlined 3 times. She says he's soft. Make him snap. Break the frame and she's free. Break the frame? I flipped to another page. This one labeled triggers. Beneath it was a list of things Tessa had clearly told him about me. Public disrespect. Gaslighting. Touching her in front of him. Money pressure. Disappointment during anniversary. They planned it all. Every word. Every moment. Even the night I left my ring on the floor, especially that night. I wasn't a husband in their eyes. I was a character in their little play. And I had followed their script perfectly. But why? That's when Aaron told me the part that changed everything. Leo has done this before, he said. Not with the same woman, but similar. Gets involved with married women. Convinces them to emotionally corner their partners. Takes what he can. Disappears. You're not the first, Meryl. You're just the first to show up after. Everything I thought I understood collapsed again. This wasn't just betrayal. It was predatory. Planned. Clinical. And Tessa? She let it happen. Maybe even helped shape it. Because the truth is, some people don't cheat out of passion, they cheat out of calculation. On the drive back, I couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear. From rage. For months, I had begged myself to be more understanding. More patient. Less emotional. But now I was done being soft. I didn't go straight back to Felix's place after the drive. I parked at a gas station off the interstate and just sat there, replaying every moment of the last few months. The cold dinners, the shoulder shrugs, her fake laugh echoing across that rooftop. Leo's hand on her leg while mine gripped a ring I thought meant something. She wanted me quiet, out of the way, obedient. She didn't expect me to look behind the curtain. She never thought I'd see the strings. But I had, and now I was going to pull them loose. The first thing I did was copy everything from the shoebox. Photos, notes, voice memos. I scanned them, labeled them, and backed them up in 3 different cloud folders. I wasn't thinking revenge. Not yet. I was thinking survival. Documentation. If she tried to twist the story, if she painted me as the unstable ex, I'd have more than enough to prove who had been setting the fire and who had just been trying to breathe. Then I got practical. Tessa and I still had financial entanglements, bills, insurance, the mortgage. I called a lawyer. He listened patiently as I explained what I had, what I'd found, and how it was all premeditated. He didn't say much at first, but then he asked one question that changed my entire approach. Do you want to burn her life down or walk away untouched? I thought about it. Really thought. Burning it down sounded poetic until I imagined the aftermath. The guilt. The mess. The endless spiral of bitterness. I didn't want to live in that space anymore. I wanted out, completely, cleanly, untouched, I said. But I want her to feel it. He understood. Within 2 days, my lawyer filed the paperwork. Contested divorce. Grounds. Emotional cruelty. Financial manipulation. I didn't serve her at home. I had her served at work. Right in the middle of a team meeting. Her assistant, a kid named Jonah who always called me, Sir, told me afterward that she went pale, didn't say a word, just gathered her stuff and left the room. No tears, Just silence. Good. Let it echo. I also sent her an email. Short. Just 4 lines. You orchestrated this. I documented everything. Don't contact me unless it's through legal counsel. You lost more than a husband, you lost your shield. I didn't expect a response. I didn't want one. But she sent one anyway. A full paragraph, almost laughably rehearsed, starting with, I didn't mean for things to go this far, and ending with, maybe someday we can talk as friends. Friends. The woman who built a psychological maze to trap me wanted to be friends. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Aaron, Leo's former landlord, and asked for a favor. I wanted to know if Leo had left anything else behind. Took a few days, but Aaron came through. Apparently, Leo had once recorded a voice memo to himself about the experiment. I asked him to email it to me. He did. In it, Leo talked about testing emotional thresholds and calibrating detachment. He said my reactions were textbook soft male trauma response. He even referred to me as Subject M, like I was part of a study, a game, a journal entry. I listened to that recording 3 times. Each time, something inside me hardened. I forwarded the file to my lawyer. Then I made a copy for myself and saved it under a new title, Proof I'm Not Crazy, because that's what all of this was about, really. Making me question myself. Gaslight me into silence. Break me quietly. But I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I was angry. And I had one last thing to do before I disappeared from her life forever. I left before she got home. I didn't want to see her face. I didn't want another conversation that would only twist the blade deeper. But I wanted her to feel something. Not pain, not vengeance, but awareness. I wanted her to really see what she had done and who she had become. So I staged it carefully. It was late afternoon. The house was quiet, as if it already knew it didn't belong to us anymore. I unlocked the front door one last time and walked into the kitchen where we used to argue about takeout menus and weekend plans. I laid out everything. The evidence, the documents, the emails between her and Leo, the printouts of their plan to emotionally corner me like a stray dog. All of it, arranged on the dining table like an exhibit. No accusations, no red ink. Just facts. Just truth. Then I placed a small envelope at the center. Inside was a USB stick with the audio file, Leo's voice, casually calling me Subject M, dissecting my emotions like I was some lab animal. That recording had been echoing in my mind for days, but now it would echo in hers. Lastly, I left the post-it I'd originally written tucked under the lamp on the counter. The one that simply said, I read everything. Before I walked out, I took one last look around. Not at the walls or furniture, but at the versions of us that used to live here. The laughter that once filled the space. The dumb dance moves in the kitchen. The late-night snacks and tired apologies. They were ghosts now. Echoes. And they weren't mine to carry anymore. I didn't slam the door. I didn't lock it. I just pulled it shut gently behind me. Hours later, I got a call from a blocked number. I didn't answer. Then a text came in. What is this? Meryl, we need to talk. Please. Then another. This isn't what you think. He manipulated me too. And then, why would you do this to me? To you? That last one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it proved everything I had just left on that table. She still thought she was the victim. She thought this whole thing was about her feelings, her discomfort, her freedom. I muted her number. Permanently. Later that night, Felix and I sat outside his apartment, a couple of lawn chairs in the parking lot like we were 2 retired retirees. He didn't ask questions. He just handed me a beer and said, You look taller. I didn't, but I understood what he meant. There's something about being lied to for so long that makes you shrink without realizing it. You start apologizing for things you didn't do, doubting emotions that were valid, begging for love you've already earned. But that night, with the cool breeze and the silence finally settling in, I realized I wasn't begging anymore. I was becoming someone new. And Tessa? She was finally alone with the truth. But the story wasn't quite over. Because the next morning, I got a message from someone I never expected. and it changed everything I thought I knew about her. The message came at 6:42 a.m., just as the sun was rising. I was half awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if healing ever really started or if it just waited for silence. The name on the message stopped me cold. Vanessa B., Tessa's older sister. We hadn't spoken in years. She always seemed distant at family gatherings, like she was observing everything but never truly present. I opened the message. Meryl, I know this is strange, but I saw what you left. I read every word. You deserved better, and I'm sorry I stayed silent for so long. She went on to say she'd noticed things over the years, the way Tessa would mock me in front of others, how she rewrote stories to make herself the victim, how Leo had appeared suddenly and too conveniently. But she never spoke up. I thought it wasn't my place, she wrote. But I realize now, silence was complicity. At first, I didn't know how to respond. But the more I read, the more I realized this wasn't about getting validation. It was about confirmation, that I wasn't imagining it, that it really happened, that I had, for so long, doubted my own reality, and now someone who knew her better than anyone else had confirmed it all. I thanked her, and that was it. No need for drama or reconnection, just closure. A week passed, then two. The divorce moved faster than expected. Maybe because she realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. Maybe because she had lost her puppet master. Leo never resurfaced. I stopped checking. He was someone else's ghost now. I moved out of Felix's apartment a month later. Got a quiet place outside the city. No framed wedding photos, no matching towels, no empty wine glasses on the counter. Just space, peace, a room I could sit in without flinching. And me? I started writing again. Not poetry, not yet, but thoughts, pages of them. Some angry, some full of gratitude, some still raw. But for the first time in years, they were mine. The last time I heard from Tessa was a bland email about a tax document. I replied with one line, "Send it to my lawyer." She didn't reply, and that was the final gift she gave me, silence. To those watching this on Reddit Confessions, I want to say this. Sometimes the betrayal doesn't look like a slam door or a screaming match. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, measured, and by the time you notice, you've already been erased from your own life. But you can take it back. I did. And now I want to hear from you. In the comments, share a moment from history, personal or global, where someone walked away from what was destroying them and discovered something better. Let's remind each other that healing is real. That walking away isn't weakness. It's power. This has been Reddit Confessions. Thanks for listening.